So thanks to all that are here today. Thanks for being a part of Manufacturing Days 2021. This is our first industry chat in our new 30-minute format. We learned from last year that 60 minutes was a little long for all of us. So we're doing 30 minutes. Thanks for being a part of this session. All attendees are muted, but we still want to hear from you. So please use the Q&A function or the chat to ask any questions or share comments. We really encourage students and educators to ask questions. This is really about you and answering your questions so you can really explore some great career opportunities in our community. And we really appreciate you being a part of this. So we will share all the questions with the speakers. So I already talked about dropping your class, school name, and number of students in the chat. And we want to give a shout out to our sponsors for Manufacturing Days 2021. Ivy Tech is our premier partner, and this session is sponsored by Coca-Cola. You can find all of our Manufacturing Days sponsors on our landing page, which we hope you've already visited or will soon, and it will be dropped into the chat so you can have that link. Coca-Cola and all our other sponsors recognize the important role manufacturing plays in our region and really want to help ensure you learn about these businesses and the great career opportunities they offer. So we have a great guest ready to tell you more about his career pathway and the local partners who can help prepare you for these careers. Today, we're fortunate to speak to Chris Hyde, a millwright in the maintenance department at Steel Warehouse. Chris has worked at Steel Warehouse for 36 years tomorrow, so big, giant virtual clapping for Chris. And we're excited to have him here to discuss his career. Oh, I don't think I introduced myself. I'm Kate Lee. I'm the Executive Director of Education and Workforce at the South Bend Regional Chamber. And feel lucky to be able to ask these questions of all these people with these exciting and great careers. So Chris, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for inviting me.
Excellent. So we're going to start out with, this is probably easy, but also hard at the same time. How did you choose your career, or maybe how did your career choose you?
Well, when I was a youngster, I worked on the farm, working on machinery and everything. And then I was an aircraft mechanic, and I wanted to better myself. And the opportunity come up here at Steel Warehouse. So I applied for the job, and I've been here ever since.
So how did you find out about Steel Warehouse?
A gentleman that was on the fire department with me said they had an opening on second shift. And, I was looking for the insurance, things like that there, and it just better opportunity for me. So I come up and applied.
Excellent. So what kind of education background and skills did you bring to Steel Warehouse that you think made you qualified to be hired into this job? And how did you accumulate them along the way?
Well, I knew how to weld, use a cutting torch, and worked on machinery, cars, things like that there. And it just progressed as I started working here, fixing a broken chain or a weld. Weld is broke, so you cut it out and you re-weld it. You just learn from day to day.
So basically paying attention.
Yeah, pay attention.
And accumulating skills. So let's talk about Steel Warehouse a little bit. So where would what you do, where would that show up in our lives? Is there anything that students and educators or any in this audience might see that they'd be like, oh, that's the kind of thing they do at Steel Warehouse?
Your John Deere equipment going up and down the road. We supply a lot of steel for John Deere International. The industry out there, the farm equipment, we supply a lot of steel to. There's some automotive industry too that we supply for.
And okay, Allison and I were over there for a tour. And we saw, I'm not going to get any of these names right, but there's some kind of a machine you guys have that makes a piece that's like the ramp that connects the back of maybe a semi to a loading dock. Am I right about this?
Yes. Trying to think. Dock plates. That the semis would back into a dock, and this plate would flip up and go on a trailer so the forklifts could drive inside the semi trailer.
Yeah, I was fascinated by that because they told us this is like the only place in the country that has this machine that makes these dock plates.
Correct.
And who would have thought that happens over on the west side of South Bend, right? This is where we're making dock plates for the whole country.
Yeah, we're busy with them.
Which is pretty cool. So what you talked about, you brought the basic welding skills and things like that to your job at Steel Warehouse. But did you take those classes in high school? Was welding part of that? Did you have traditional shop class back when there was traditional shop class, or how did you, or was it just experience with adults in your life giving you opportunities, or was it formal education?
Back in the Stone Age, kids, when I took high school, we had an ag class, which we done welding in class. And that's really where I basically learned how to do it, was in shop class.
So the other skills, as you've accumulated them, they've all been really like somebody who was your manager or your mentor at work, helping to teach you how to use those, to teach you those new skills?
Yes.
So what would you say to a student who maybe has taken welding in high school or is thinking about taking welding, about how those kind of what foundational pieces would be the most beneficial to them and kind of give them a head start coming into a place like Steel Warehouse?
Well, you take a welding class in school, you know the basics already, and same with using a cutting torch, the oxygen settling, set it to right pressure, your welder set it to right temperature so you can weld a good bead. You know your weld's going to stick and not break right away.
Ah. So you kind of have to get the feel for it. So the practice really makes you probably better at your job the minute you show up. Is that?
Yes, it does.
Excellent. So tell us about, well, I think it'd be interesting to hear, like, what was a typical day like in your life when early in your career, when you were just learning, and then shift into the experiences you've had as you've moved forward in your career. Like, talk a little bit about your career pathway within Steel Warehouse, where you started and the different steps you took to get to where you are now 36 years later.
When I first started, I worked second shift. We done PMs on a machine, which the PM consists of checking bearings, your chains, oil level in the gearbox, like you would check the oil level in your car. And it progressed. Then when I come on days, I started working with one of the other bosses and we started installing machinery, which was nice. I learned a lot there. And then you had to weld stuff together, and we built the machinery. We would take a flat piece of steel and the engineers would design something and would put together like a puzzle and weld it all up. And for the last, I'm going to say 27 years, I traveled to our different facilities, installing machinery, doing rebuilds on machinery. That's where I'm at today.
So you've probably met a lot of interesting people along the way and seen a lot of the world. Tell the students a little bit about how you prepared for those opportunities and were able to take advantage of them.
Well, Steel Warehouse started expanding and they put a facility in Monterrey, Mexico. I was able to go down there from the start to the finish of that there, install the line, everything. Met a lot of people down there. Sao Paulo, Brazil, we built a facility down there. I got to go down there and help out on that there. Met a great bunch of people. Houston, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee. You know, I got to go to all these places and help install the machinery and train new people, like all these kids in class today, you know, would train you how to fix this, repair this, weld this up, do this, do that. And it's a great opportunity.
So I know that Steel Warehouse also has an apprenticeship program. Do you work with any of the apprentices?
Pardon?
Do you work with any of the apprentices that are coming up through?
Yes, I worked with one that just got went to third shift, and I'm working with one now on days. So they're the one that I'm working with now on days hasn't started his schooling yet, but he's learning. And that's a great opportunity to teach these young kids.
I think that's an important thing for students here to know, that there are businesses in town who offer really great on-the-job training there's formal apprenticeship programs, but lots of different ways. And that's an important question to ask maybe when you're interviewing for a job, like what internal growth opportunities are there for me? Like what else could I do? Especially everybody has to start somewhere. So if you start, like Chris has said, you start here and then you start accumulating skills and knowledge, and you can grow into quite a career sticking with a company, and they kind of stick with you and train you. So, and then you start transferring your knowledge back. So are there any
Correct.
examples of some of the younger people at Steel Warehouse who you've seen come in and grow through their careers and have gone in different directions?
No, I haven't yet. The young kids that has come in since I've been here are still here. It's us older guys that's going.
So what kind of jobs have they grown into? Like when they start in one place, do you see them going into different areas within Steel Warehouse or the other Lehrman family companies, or do they move around internally?
Yes, I could see if you started here and went through your apprenticeship program and everything, that there was an opening, say in Chattanooga or Memphis, and you wanted to move south. I'm sure you could transfer to one of the other facilities.
I don't actually want anybody to leave our area because we're all about population growth here, but they can find other jobs even within the local companies, right? They could actually find their way to grow their career and stay right here as well.
Yes.
Excellent. So this is like a trick question. This is one that I like to ask people. Is there anything you learned in high school or like before you were 18? Is there anything you learned before you were 18 that several years later you had this aha moment of why you learned it and why it's valuable?
That's a tough one. I wish I knew then what I know now,
There you go.
because I would have done a lot of things different when I was younger.
Excellent. Like, do you have any examples? Like advice, like what kind of advice would you give 18-year-old you?
Well, if you want to be a millwright, start training for it now because you're young, you're still in school. And then you'll be retired in 30 years or, something like that there, because now here I'm 37 years here. And if I'd have learned this when I was out of school, I'd probably have 50 years in here now. It's a great opportunity to be an apprentice and a millwright.
Awesome. So we do have a student who actually asked the question, if they're interested in the apprenticeship, how would they check that out? How would they connect to learn more about the apprenticeship program?
I would say come to Steel Warehouse and get with HR, and they will go through the program with you. I know 3 of our bosses here, the maintenance bosses, and we have 3 gentlemen that's millwrights like me that's on the apprenticeship committee that we interview the new recruits coming in, explain the schooling to them, the grades that they have to carry. If you're rusty on your welding, we have welders here. We got steel, we weld, help them button up on that.
That's excellent. So it just kind of, they can prepare in advance for the job they want to apply for or learn more about what they need to do to be really ready to get hired into that kind of a program.
Correct.
Do most of the apprentices who are in the program work at Steel Warehouse for a bit of time before they actually enter the apprenticeship program, or do they come right into the apprenticeship program? Or is it a mix?
It might be a mix, but most of them might be here maybe 6 months before they start their schooling.
Okay. Excellent. So for you, are there, as you've gone through your career, have you gone back to get additional outside training or anything to get special skills or certifications or things that were required to continue moving forward in your career, or just because you wanted to? Like, are there, as far as that lifelong learning thing, or has most of it been on site?
I think it's a lifelong learning thing. All my certifications that I have, I've all obtained right here at this campus. The welding certification was done here. Really everything I've gotten, I've learned right here, the hands-on.
Do they bring instructors in to teach some of those as well? Do you ever outside instructors, or is it mostly just people who already know how to do it that are internal?
The welding certification, we had an outside instructor come in to do that test. Other certifications, they had instructors come in. It was like a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday class that we done.
And so were those optional, or were you told that you need to do it? Like, is this something where students need to be thinking about how they can take advantage of those training opportunities when they're offered by employers?
They're optional. You can take them if you want. You know, I would take them because you're learning more. It's that certification in your background that's going to help you years down the road.
I just think that's good advice in general, to continue pursuing more learning, because it could come in handy like next week at work, but it could also come in handy in 3 months and you'll be glad you did the training. So,
Yes.
yeah. So how do you see your job and other jobs in your field and within Steel Warehouse changing due to technology? How has that changed how things are done?
Ooh.
People still lift really heavy rolls over there, I noticed. So there's some people are still getting a good workout every day. So not everything's done by robots.
We have no robots here, but the technology is taking less guys to run the machine. But we still maybe say old school machines yet that is taking this 1-inch thick steel and flatten it out. So the new technology is helping us do it, but it's old technology that's doing the work.
Oh. So are there like new positions that have come online at Steel Warehouse to kind of manage those technology pieces?
I'm sorry, I don't have the answer for that one.
Okay, I just wondered if there are because there is some things that are more IT related. Are there people who have had to come in to kind of handle that side of the process?
Our electricians do a lot of the programming on the machinery. I think IT might do some of it, but a couple of the electrical foremans are computer whizzes, whatever, that do their thing.
I know, I find it interesting. We talk about IT jobs and I'm like, there's an IT job everywhere. Like every job's an IT job now. Like it's integrated into everything we do in such a way that everybody has to have at least this baseline knowledge of computers and how to just navigate the digital world, which we can't avoid that being integrated into our work. I don't think any kind of work.
The computer's nice, but I like the old school.
Old school is important too. Like you said, that's where the work's getting done, right? The old school processes.
Yes.
So a reminder to students, if you have any questions, we have about 10 minutes left, so please drop them in the chat. I'm sure Chris would love to answer those. Let's see. Looking for the questions I have on my list. Okay, so this is a good one. What is the best thing about your job?
This is a family-owned business and they care about you, and it's a great place to work. Everybody treats everybody like family. Somebody's working on something, somebody's walking by, they stop and they help you out. It's just great here.
And I guess that's one of those things, having worked in multiple places throughout my career, when you're in an environment like that, you can feel it. You know when people care about you and support you in your work, and not just your work life, but just your life in general.
Right, you go home at night, you're with your family. You come in the morning, you're with your second family, and you're glad to see them, and you just have fun.
That's great. So a question for one of our educators. What certification would be the most beneficial for a student to have who's interested in becoming a millwright? If they were in high school, current tech ed classes or whatever, even in post-secondary, what certification or certifications would be most helpful?
Well, your welding certification, I don't know what all classes that high schools teach now. If there's any kind of a millwright class, the welding, the rigging, machinery alignment, anything like that.
This would probably be a great conversation for you to have with some of the educators that are on here about how they might integrate some of the skills you think are important that students could use every day coming straight in to entry-level work, how they could integrate that into their classrooms. Because we do have a lot of welding and those kind of classes that are available, but it's always helpful to get industry people who are doing the work every day engaged with the educators and the students so they can really say, yep, you really need to know that not so much, like, what are you really going to use all the time? What's going to really matter?
Ooh.
Yeah. So
the welding, that would really matter. Any mechanical part.
That's excellent. So what's the minimum age to work at Steel Warehouse? Do you have to be 18? Do you know?
I'm going to say yes, but that'd be something to check with HR.
Yeah. We do need to check on that and see. I know there are some questions on that in manufacturing, but there are workarounds and there are ways to do job shadows and different things like that we continue to explore in this area of how we can better get high school students that work-based learning opportunity before they turn 18 and graduate from high school. So
I know at one time they used to have summer help, but I don't know if they do it anymore or not.
So you talked about the family-owned business, and that I think this lends to that. There's a question about pay and benefits, like working your way up. And I think something that students don't think about necessarily when you're 18, when you're looking for your first job, that it's not just about your paycheck, but also about the benefits. So can you speak a little bit as to how you look at that as you've gone through your career, like the value of the benefits and the pay and how you can work your way up the pay scale?
Pay, you would have to talk to HR about that. The benefits, you have your insurance, your 401k, your hourly wage. We work all kinds of overtime.
It's hard to plan for that. That's the trick, right? On overtime, you can kind of get a feel for it. After 36 years, you probably know some stuff, but
yes, and your 401k, that's a great thing right there to start when you're young. Throw as much of it in there as you can. Then when you get ready to retire, you're set back in easy street.
Easy street. Can't wait for easy street.
If you can save it.
There you go. So I have a question from one of the educators. Adding shaft alignment and hydraulics to their program would be good. So those would be good skills to add to their high school programs?
Yes, that is a good one there. Yes, hydraulics is a great one. We have a lot of hydraulic valving, pumps like that here. That would be a great class to take.
Awesome. So, and Allison is dropping these in the chat for the students. We have these 31 pathway pages that are out on the Manufacturing Days landing page. And a lot of these jobs that you're talking about and different things like that are out there with ideas on certifications and different things like that. We have so many great education providers locally. We have great career and tech ed in our high schools, but then IB Tech and the certifications, and the state has lots of programs, which students, I'm encouraging you to explore those pathway pages and what courses you can take locally. 2 and 4 year colleges are a great option, but also there's great certifications you can get even while you're in high school, take a summer class, things like that, that can really prepare you to hit the ground running whether you decide to go forward onto traditional post-secondary or right into the workforce. So just building the skill set, I think, is kind of the key. And here's the question. What's better, weld school or apprenticeship? Oh, I think this means to go to official welding program, like a 2-year welding degree. I think maybe Scott, is that what you're asking? Yes. So is it better to shoot into the welding program post-secondary or go straight into an apprenticeship? Your opinion?
I would say your apprenticeship program, because in your apprenticeship program, you do have a welding class in there.
Also, the employer typically pays for your apprenticeship classes.
Pardon?
The employers, mostly I think the employers will then pay for your classes when you're doing an apprenticeship.
Correct. They do that. But your apprenticeship program to me would be more beneficial than a welding program.
And it would be incorporated in that typically, like the welding's in there, going to be in there anyway.
Right. You do electrical, welding, rigging, all kinds of things like that.
Wonderful. So I can't believe it, but it's already 1:28. So we blew through that pretty fast. So are there any closing remarks you have for the students? Any words of encouragement for finishing strong in high school? Most of these are high school students but others will see this, but back to the things you wish you would have known. You've told us a few, but is there any advice that you would give to the students?
No, just tell them, all the kids good luck. Pursue your dreams and come to Still Warehouse. I'd like to meet you in person and show you exactly what I do.
Well, it would be great hopefully we'll have live tours again one of these days. And you might just be surprised who shows up and says, hey, I saw you on that screen. So thank you so much to Chris. Thank you so much for being a part of this day. And thanks to the students and educators who have hopped on to our first industry chat of Manufacturing Days 2021. I encourage everyone to visit the Manufacturing Day landing page. I know Allison has dropped those links in the chat. This industry chat's also being recorded, as will the other 8 that are going to happen over the next 2 weeks. So make sure that you check the Manufacturing Days landing page to check those out, and you can learn from many other employers, educators, and community partners about manufacturing related careers and pathways. So we appreciate Chris, his time, and all of our audience, and thank you very much.
Thank you.